Before starting the video, I would like to thank all of you for reaching 5,000 subscribers. This motivates us a lot to bring even more knowledge and videos to you.
But there's been an American nightmare that has accompanied that, and that's where people that equally have tried to get educated and worked hard and had good habits have found themselves living a life that's been on the edge throughout their entire lives, and the same for their children.
As Warren Buffett said here, many Americans have been living the American nightmare instead of the American dream. Look at this. Did you know that 58% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? That means that whenever you go to the supermarket, about 60% of the entire store is struggling to survive, barely able to buy their basic groceries. The sad reality is that no matter where you live, it affects all of America. Being broke has nothing to do with how much you earn. There are cases of people who have accumulated six-figure debts working minimum wage jobs and having a family. But there's another side to the coin. There are people who earn salaries above $100,000 and still live paycheck to paycheck. But that's a choice. In fact, Warren Buffett is someone who built his wealth with very little. We all need money to survive, and that's why we work. In Warren Buffett's famous words, "If you don't learn to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die." If you want to stop drowning in debts, live the life you desire, and help the people around you, you need to address this situation. The story of how Warren Buffett became rich is remarkable. It turns out he has 5 key things that keep people poor, and we'll share them with you today, starting with the first one. Number 1, zero balance. Let's assume you have $50 in your bank account. Normally, when you believe you have $50 in your account, you also think you have $50 to spend, right? Well, that can be a big problem.
My advice to you is, if you can't pay for it, don't buy it, and get yourself in a position where you can pay for anything, and then we'll be glad to see you at Borsheim's or the Nebraska Furniture Mart.
As Warren Buffett says here, don't buy what you can't afford. Just because you have $50 doesn't mean you can spend $50. That's precisely what we call zero balance thinking. This kind of thinking is the wealth killer, and is also why income doesn't determine if you are poor or rich. For example, Warren Buffett lives a lifestyle of about $100,000 per year, even though he is the 5th richest person in the world. On the other hand, if you earn $40,000 per year and spend $40,000 per year, you're still broke. If you earn $100,000 per year and spend $100,000 per year, you're still broke. What you need to do is set aside part of your salary and put it into savings to be prepared for emergencies and investments so your money can start growing over time. Look how long it's been since Warren Buffett invested in his first stock.
On this March 11th, in a couple of weeks, it'll be 77 years since I bought my first stock. And I paid $114.75 for 3 shares of City Service Preferred.
But let's give you an example to help clarify zero balance thinking. Let's say there's a fashion enthusiast who loves wearing beautiful clothes all the time. One day, he received a nice stimulus check that year, about $250, because the company was doing very well. Instead of using this money wisely, he wanted to use the check to buy a new pair of pants. Yes, he used the entire stimulus check to buy a new pair of pants instead of seizing the opportunity to make his money grow. However, you might be wondering how to avoid this type of thinking. There's a simple rule to follow called the 5 rule. If you can't buy 5 of the items you want with cash, then you can't buy them at all. That means if you had $50, you could only buy something that costs $10. It's important not to overcomplicate this more than necessary. And in the words of Warren Buffett, I don't try to jump over 7-foot bars. I look around for 1-foot bars that I can step over. Don't make your path to wealth harder than it needs to be and avoid zero balance thinking, but there's a hidden aspect of spending that is often overlooked.
Just like being a net buyer of food, I expect to buy food the rest of my life, and I hope that food goes down in price tomorrow. When stocks are down, we're going to be buying on balance, and who wouldn't rather buy it, at a lower price than a higher price?
Do you want to learn how to live off YouTube like us? Making videos about what you like without having to show your face? Start transforming your life in the right place. I left a special link for you in the pinned comment. Number 2, payment traps. Warren Buffett makes this very clear. But if you're not careful, low prices can turn against you. Many people who appear rich are not actually rich. They only seem to be. They have very expensive things, which makes you wonder how the hell they can afford it, and you can't. Well, Warren Buffett has something to say about those who seem rich. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. In other words, when you investigate thoroughly, you find out who is really wealthy and who isn't. The truth is they can't afford it, but they think they can. For example, let's assume someone you know recently bought a Mercedes. It's a beautiful car, and they only have monthly payments of $350 for it. However, just because they can afford $350 in monthly payments doesn't mean they can buy it new outright with cash. In other words, they can't afford it. This leads to the illusion that you can spend more money than you actually have because you're not paying large sums for the items you own, like $41,000 for a new Mercedes. One specific area where you'll see this a lot is zero interest offers. At this point, you can buy almost anything with zero interest and pay in monthly installments. For example, a PlayStation 5 on Amazon costs between $350 and $500 can be paid in monthly installments of $50 to $70. These installments might make you think you can afford more things, but in the end, you end up having to pay the full amount anyway. And when you have to pay not just a car at $350 per month, but also a sofa at $75 per month, and many other items in your home, along with credit card debts, you'll be broke forever.
The other one is from people who run up credit card debt, and they're facing bankruptcy, or they've been through bankruptcy once before, and they owe a whole bunch of money, and they can't even pay the interest, let alone pay any principal. And half of my letters come from people like that, and that problem is avoidable.
So don't fall into payment traps designed to keep you broke. But what do you do to avoid these payment traps? Number 3, compounding. After overcoming the payment traps and the zero balance mindset, you can focus on applying compound interest to your money. Compounding has a magical effect that makes money grow exponentially.
When we get chances to deploy the capital, we've always tried to make any entity, whether it was the partnership originally or Berkshire now or Blue Chip Stamps when we owned it or even diversified retailing, we wanted them all to be compounding, in effect, be compounding machines.
However, if you want your money to grow using this magical effect, you need to understand 2 words that Warren Buffett knows better than anyone. Assets are things you own that put money in your pocket, and liabilities are things you buy that take money out of your pocket. So, assets are things like dividend-paying stocks or real estate, while liabilities are the car you own, the clothes you buy, or a new phone. What indebted people do is buy things that make them look rich. But since these things are liabilities, they're not really rich. When you flip this around and start focusing on buying assets, you can actually become wealthy. In fact, you can become so wealthy that you can easily buy liabilities, since the assets you own generate so much money that you can pay for those liabilities in cash. This will become easier to understand with an example. I met someone who was in a very good financial position and was looking for what to do next. They were thinking of buying a new car that would make them look very cool and that they've always wanted. However, they were also very interested in personal finance and how they could make their money grow. They read various books and always found that rich people owned real estate, including Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. So, this person decided to buy a small apartment complex, and after a month of preparing the place for rent, they got a tenant and started making a $300 profit every month. This is a perfect example of how an asset generates money and how a liability, even though it may seem cool, doesn't give anything back. The best part is that you don't need a lot of money to start creating compound interest effects. Real estate is expensive, but you can buy assets like dividend-paying stocks with just $5 a day, $5 a week, or even $5 a month. You can do whatever you feel comfortable doing. One thing to note is that assets are not the same as keeping your money in a savings account. A savings account will barely make your money grow with your hard-earned income. That's the income you work hard to get, and you can't work hard forever, and probably don't want to either. You deserve to have the freedom to do what you want, and for that, You need your money to work for you and grow, and that's exactly what assets do. The more money you have in assets, the faster it will grow, and the faster you'll become wealthy. A simple rule to effectively use the compound interest effect is the 5-to-1 rule, meaning for every $5 you spend on liabilities, $1 goes to assets. If you spend $15 on Amazon, then you should invest $3 in assets. If you spend $80 at Walmart, then you invest $16 in Walmart. Number 4. Flashy lifestyle. The sad reality is that social media exaggerates things a lot, showing tons of people who appear rich but are actually not rich. In fact, there have been several stories of people accumulating thousands of dollars in debt just to look good on Instagram. It's a simple fix, but avoid the flashy lifestyle. Look at Warren Buffett. You never see a brand on his suits, he eats economically, and he lives in the first house he bought, and see how wealthy he is. You can follow in his footsteps, find the things that truly matter in your life, and at the same time, accumulate wealth. Number 5. A step ahead. While we can stop and just make excuses saying that businesses are bad because everyone wants your money, the truth is we are all trying to survive, and that's how the world works nowadays. The problem here is that we all have the choice to buy or not to buy, and most people simply lack a filter. They buy things they don't need just because they want to. When you develop a filter and don't buy things just because you feel like it, you'll realize how much richer you feel. With this extra money, you start investing, and as you see your money grow, you want it to grow faster. Now, you start thinking about ways to increase your income, and that's where you, as a saver and investor, move to the other side and start figuring out how to be a producer like the businesses you buy from. This is so you can generate more cash flow, now that you understand how the game works. Maybe you work more hours at your job and focus on getting a promotion, or start a side gig like freelancing or a small business. Either way, you seek to earn more money so you can buy more assets and increase your wealth as quickly as possible to finally do the things that matter most to you. What matters is the preparation. Predicting rains doesn't count, building arcs does, as Warren Buffett says.